How's everybody doing today? Doing all right? Having good? We don't have a ton of time, and this is pretty thick content. It is a little interactive, so I'll be asking questions. Be ready for that. I'm Chris Corriere. I've been in tech for 25 years, sociotechnical mathematician. I'm a complexity scientist, organizer for tech communities like DevOpsDays. Ecology computing is my center of practice, so it's more like a design philosophy thing. I don't make any money with it yet. I try to avoid that, but it's just, basis of how I work. Continuous delivery of fish and vegetables. So I've got aquaponic systems. These are strawberries I grew. That's the tank that holds the tilapia. And the point here is the structure defines the system. It's sort of like Conway's law, where it is, how much water's in it, what kind of substrate I'm using to grow vegetables in, defines the system that's coming. And if you meet those dependencies, the system will flourish, but you gotta see those dependencies. You can't yell at plants to make them grow faster. It doesn't work at all. And there's a nice bell pepper. Those are some tomatoes that came up. Fun stuff. So this talk, we're going to get through how pipelines are value streams, a general purpose value stream map for platforms, some dependency maps for platform processes, which are wardley maps. Who's heard of wardley maps before? We did an open space on that yesterday. This talk will probably make more sense if you were in there. Then we're going to get into aligning SLIs, SLOs, and SLAs across our platform value stream and establishing error budgets. So what is a platform? A platform are two-sided networks providing opportunities for businesses to serve customers like airports and shopping malls. If you've been to Atlanta, Hartsfield-Jackson International Airport or Lenox Square Mall, both follow the same pattern of you don't pay the airport or the mall money directly. You pay the airline, you pay the vendors. The mall and the airport, they provide parking and water and light and an opportunity for this business to be conducted, but they're not necessarily in the game. Sometimes insided, so like with the aquaponic system, you've got multiple agents in there. I build the infrastructure, put in the water, but you've got plants, you've got fish. I'm part of that system. You've got beneficial bacteria that's like helping kick off the nitrogen cycle, but that structure defines the system and how well it's gonna work. Even conference spaces. We've got this venue, organizers put up the website, but sponsors have to bring the money, attendees have to sign up, people have to submit talks to CFP. So we've got the same kind of system where you've got multiple agents interacting. That's where it's end-sided. All these agents have a different perspective on the system. What is DevOps? Definition we got out of DevOpsDays Atlanta, it might be the friends we made along the way, that's Andrew Clay Schaefer, John's favorite definition now. I'm gonna define it here as DevOps is reducing friction to production. This ICE-COMS acronym is a longer standing definition I've used. I'm not gonna go through all of these words because we've got 20 minutes to get through a lot of content. What is SRE? It's really about production stability. If you've got service level agreements with your customers, that's pretty much a given. Every business does that. Service level indicators are just the stuff you can measure in the system, quantifiable data. And then service level objectives are ranges you put on that quantifiable data to make sure you're not violating your SLAs. You want to go out of SLO before you're in SLA violation because those usually have financial penalties, if not worse stuff. And last is error budgets. So if you're not doing error budgets, you're not really practicing SRE. And the catch with error budgets is once you're out of range on your SLOs and SLAs are at risk of being impacted, feature work stops, and the only thing getting pushed is for stability purposes. Who's got SLOs defined in their org? That's pretty good. Who's got error budgets? Do you enforce your error budgets? Meh, sometimes. This is a value stream map for cookies. This is a project I did with my kids. So the big thing with Value stream maps is you've got your process steps through the middle there, your customer on the right side, mission control up top, and suppliers on the left. You want to see product flow, material flow through the middle, and then the timing diagram at the bottom is like great to have. That can be harder to measure. The bigger takeaway from this is that the outputs from the previous process step are the inputs to the next one. We covered that in the open space yesterday. And you can do a value stream map for pretty much anything. These illustrate horizontal flow through an org. We use social practice maps to decenter each process step. Once we've got that process decentered and pulled apart, we know what pieces we need to put on our wardley map to show the vertical dependencies. And it's the same thought as the aquaponics system. If the process step has its dependencies met, that fosters the activity you want. It's going to function if the dependencies are met. There's the opportunity for it to thrive there, work as intended. So wardley maps, the vertical chain is like the classic value chain, which is visibility to customer. On the x-axis, we have genesis, which is really emergent, new things in the world that haven't ever existed before. There's S-curves between them, so you can talk about cookie innovation if we're coming up with a brand new cookie that never existed before. Once that's out in the world, it can be custom built. You can copy that. You can bake those custom cookies yourself. Eventually, it evolves into a product that you can buy off the shelf, so you've got like just cookies or cookie dough or break and bake. Often we get a rental function with product, so you can think of like data centers back in the day. You would lease equipment. And then eventually it hits a commodity function, which comes with a utility. You can order cookies on Grubhub, and they appear instantly. So you know you've got this utility function in the commodity domain when you can either flip a switch or turn a dial and spin the thing up and down as needed. It's on demand. Much like gas or electricity, other utilities you might pay for. This is a social practice map. The most important thing when you're decentering, this one's on riding a bike to work. Again, I'm not going to run through the whole thing because we are trying to keep an eye on time here. But the most important thing is the meaning and the purpose. Like, why are we doing this? Are we doing it, for necessity? Is it for fun? Is it for exercise? You need the materials. You need an actual bicycle, safety equipment, a valid path, like infrastructure to get you there. And then you need skills and know-how. Do you know how to ride a bike? Do you know the traffic laws? Same thing applies to any social practice. So pretty much anything humans do, you can pull apart into a social practice. So what we did in the open space yesterday is broke the tea shop is the classic wardley map example, but we broke out what materials we needed, why we were building our tea shop. For a tea shop, you need to know how to boil water, sort of the skill set. And then you recenter those onto the wardley map once you've got all your pieces, and try to decide what domain you're pulling them from. This is a wardley map of a technical need. It's very idealistic and simple for illustrative purposes. So that customer need is at the top, and that should be something unique. That's your brand differentiator. You're going to have some custom-built requirements. You're also going to have some custom-built source code. What's lower visibility is the open source components that are in that product space. There's always third-party dependencies. I doubt you're forging your own front-side buses and generating your own electricity. And finally, that star as a service, whatever that commodity is. If it's that utility function, it's going to be your electricity to some extent. It's going to be whatever cloud provider or whatever SaaS you're using. And this pipeline illustrates just sort of a group of options within a wardley map. So that pipeline is more locked, and you're going to see that consistently through any open. So most software projects are going to involve some custom-built source code, some open source components somewhere, and some kind of utility service for them to be able to function. And here we get to our first value stream map, where we align SRE and DevOps practices. So blue is our dev environment. This is where we start to measure SLIs. This is a greenfield project. We're getting stood up. Do we have a shopping cart? Are we looking, how long something's in the cart, when they actually check out? Are we looking at newsletter sign up? Are we looking at CPU and RAM? But what are the things in our system that we're measuring? You can start to see those in dev. As you move into UAT, you move out of these DevOps social practices and into these shared practices, which I'm starting to call production readiness is a new word for that, seems to fit. That's when you really need to start thinking about SLOs as you approach prod. And then finally, we've got a big bar there to show the resistance. When we finally move into production, that's when our error budgets kick in and you need to start doing SRE practices, and your SLAs are gonna come into play. Down at the bottom, the timing diagram is very idealized. We're looking at initial commit to prod deployment and then when your releases. So that's also a big element, a big differentiator. You can deploy before your release if you're using like feature flags, reduces a lot of risk. We map this out a lot. I've done this a few times. This is the group from Antwerp. Notice Richard's in there. And we can actually jump out now. This is a fun little game. Anybody want to shout out a DevOps practice? When you're like green, new project, and starting it off greenfield, what's something you might need to get going? Version control. And we're tight on time. So what's a shared practice as we're getting production ready? What's something that might come up? Integration testing. And what's something that's more SRE oriented that you're gonna need when you're moving towards production, dealing with that risk? Response time. So I'm gonna go ahead and jump to the next slide. We can see this is sort of the compiled set over time. And you can go through and wardley map all these. I think the more interesting ones that have come up is that it's until end of life, the SRE practices. The DevOps practices could be temporary as you become feature complete and things stabilize. There's not a lot of change fix, it's just in production and running. You're like patching security updates and like versioning dependencies, but like it's pretty stabilized at that point. Did want to give a shout out to Keto for sponsoring the track. You'll notice security and DevOps is in the middle there. And they do seem to have a value stream complete solution between IDE plugins and runtime protection. So please, thank you, sponsors. Moving into data platforms, I've got medallion architecture up here, and you get data ops practices, which are a little bit different. Who's messed with like Databricks? We got one, Snowflake. So this might be a little scary, but production Python notebooks are like a real thing that exists in the wild now. There's neat stuff going on in the data space. Here's some of those same practices. So that data lake where you get transfer ingest, where your raw data is coming in, that's gonna go into a data warehouse where things are loaded and cleaned. And finally, those warehouse pieces get verified in a data mart where you've got a data product that's consumable. If you don't have a clean data platform where you've got a data mart with clean data products that are like trusted and verified and consumable, you're gonna have a problem with your AI platform. This is the back push we've seen coming with the AI revolution that has happened. And this is sort of a blend between the two. You got medallion architecture on top of dev, UAT, and prod, your compute. And here you've got ML ops practices. So those are gonna be different from your data ops practices and your DevOps practices. And here are some of those when you're starting out with a new AI platform. You're looking at vector embedding and model selection. You get into RAG and agents and evals as you're moving into UAT and getting ready for prod. And finally, your SLAs are gonna depend on rate limits. Another one that's come up that's not on here is cloud spend. If you're doing AI without a budget, it's not gonna work. If you're not paying OpenAI and Anthropic, you're probably gonna be spending a lot of money on like RAM and GPUs. So AI is not free. If your org is trying to get you to implement AI on a $0 budget or a negative budget, ain't gonna work. You should have a conversation about that. And here is a wardley map of a social practice. Ideally, that upper left to bottom right trend is what you want to see. This one's a little bit different. Does anybody recognize this map? Can you all read it? Any guesses? That's a Jez Humble's original definition of continuous delivery. You need a team agreement. You need a ridiculous toy. It could be a whittled yak, a stuffed animal, a rubber chicken, an old dev computer, and an automated build and release cycle, and a bell. The idea was when you were ready to deploy, you would grab the chicken, go to the old machine, do your deploy on the old machine. When it was done, you'd ring the bell, everyone would cheer, and you'd go put the chicken back so people would know that your release was done and they could push code if they needed to. So this was a little silly, put it in there for some fun. Online wardley maps is how I did this map. Usually I'm like in Miro or photo editing software, but this is a good tool as well. Platforms abstract complexity so products and services are accessible to more people. That is the whole point. Open source platform integration. Ecology is working on open source platform integration products. These products enable billable services. Currently dogfooding my own stuff. I haven't open sourced anything yet, but it's coming. Lots of interest and support so far. So I'm Ecology Chris online if y'all want to follow me. And I will end this talk by saying, be the change you want to see in the world by planting a garden where you're standing. Thank you so much. I did cut out the complexity science piece for time. We've got an open space on complexity science in the last spot. We can just treat that as open floor between wardley mapping and the rest of it. It sort of fits into the complexity science. So if you've got like questions or maybe you're a little bit confused, you want to come talk, come catch up with us at 3:30.